Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Sam and today's video is going to be a mid-month wrap-up. I have not done one of these in years, probably like 2 years at this point, because I just haven't been reading enough every month to warrant doing a mid-month wrap-up. But September, I don't know what's going on with me, but September so far, I've already read 12 books. Yeah, so I'm gonna need to do one of these because August wrap up, I had 12 books total that I read, and it took me 36 minutes to make it through those 12 books. So if I just keep piling them on and do my September wrap up in one video, y'all would be there all day, and nobody wants that. No one wants that, okay? So I'm gonna try to make it through these 12 books in not 36 minutes because I don't know what I ramble about, but so yeah, mid-month wrap up, here we are. I've had a pretty good reading month so far. I've had some pretty big hits and two kind of like me books, but yeah, let's just get started. The first book that I read, I actually vlogged, so I'm not gonna go too much into detail on it. That is Meant for Gabriel by Natasha Madison. I gave this book a 4-star rating. It is a small town single dad romance. So Zara, our heroine, she is engaged to be married, and this book opens up with her going to try on wedding dresses, and she gets done earlier than she thought she would. So she goes home and finds her fiance cheating on her. So she decides she's gonna run away to this small town and just sort of like lay low and figure out what she wants to do. And there she meets Gabriel, who is a single father, and he runs this bar, and they have like a one-night stand, and that just turns into them wanting more. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was super sweet. I know I said in my vlog that Natasha Madison is just becoming one of those comfort read authors for me. That's exactly what this was. I had a really, really good time with it. If you want more in-depth thoughts, the vlog that I read this in is like a like reading new romance releases reading vlog. So I'll have that linked down below if I remember to do it. Okay, then next up we have Bourbon and Lies by Victoria Wilder. Now this book was put on my radar by Cheyenne, and what made me actually like really want to read it is it's set in a very small town called Fiasco, Kentucky, and I'm from Kentucky, so I'm like, let's read this, let's see what this is about. So we are following Lainey and Grant Fox. Now, Murphy? Sorry, I thought I have like a mirror to make sure that I'm in frame, and Murphy is literally right in front of it grooming himself, and I don't want it to fall, because if it falls, it's gonna fall on him and the camera and the lights. Murphy, can you come over here? Come on, bud. No? Okay, just look at me. Okay, anyway. So Grant Fox, him and his family actually own a bourbon distillery. They are very popular, very well known in the bourbon industry world. Lainey actually ends up coming to the Fox family because, okay, she's taken into witness protection because she sees something that she shouldn't, and so they whisk her away to the Fox family. And they live on this like compound. So the oldest brother is really the only one that knows the reason why Lainey is there. She has been told, hey, don't say anything. We don't know like who we can trust at the moment. So just keep it, you know, short, sweet, give as little detail as possible. But the agent that brings her to Fiasco, Kentucky, and to the Fox brothers really trusts them. And she's like, you're going to be safe here. I trust these men. And actually Grant used to be an officer, but some things happened, and he actually ended up losing a partner, and the partner that he was with, she was also a officer, and she lost her life. So the Fox men think they're cursed, and the town also thinks they're cursed to lose the women that they love. And so Grant really, since he lost his partner and his girlfriend, he's just not really been on the lookout for love. But then Lainey comes in and he's like, who are you? Why are you here? And then the more he's around her, the more he wants to be around her. And then when he actually learns why she's there, he is all in, all in. So this romantic suspense, there is a really cute canine dog in here that I loved. The dog does get into a little bit of trouble. She saves Lainey's life, and the dog is okay though. The dog ends up being okay. So if you're worried about that, she's fine. But yeah, I just thought this was super cute. This was a really fun romance. Again, kind of special to me because it's set in Kentucky and it's bourbon. I mean, that's one of the things that Kentucky is the most known for, is bourbon. So I enjoyed this one. I gave it a 4 stars. I'm really looking forward to book 2 and seeing more of these fox men. So then I switched it up and went to a dark romance. I saw Baron from the book Baron. She was reading, like, she's been binge reading Sam Mariano, and I'm like, I want to read a Sam Mariano. It's been a while since I've read her. I'm gonna read this. So I started with, what is this? Irreparable Damage. This is Irreparable book 1. And it's a duet. So in this book, we are following Willow and Ethan. Now, Willow is the daughter of a big, like, mafia man, and I can't remember the specifics, but she's like taken into, she's taken by these men, and they're trying to sell her off to, like, sex traffic her. And Ethan is actually there because he is undercover. And things happen with Willow and Ethan while they are in this situation together. And Ethan and Willow end up escaping. And then they can't seem to shake what happened. Willow cannot move on from what happened, and she seeks out Ethan to kind of help her figure some things out, and that becomes sort of a bonding moment for them where they want to be together more. This one, like I said, it's a dark romance. Check your triggers. We know how Sam Mariano is, but this one was a little different for me because typically the heroes for Sam Mariano are not like your typical heroes. They are very, like, anti-hero, they don't do the right thing, they don't care. And Ethan is a married man and he has children, and he's definitely trying to do the right thing. And then his job puts him in a situation where he doesn't do the right thing, but he's trying to save his own life, and he's also trying to save Willow from he knows if these other men were to do it to her, it just wouldn't be a good situation. And so he's trying to, like, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place, and he's trying to just make the best of a situation. And he's really grappling with that, and his wife and his kids, and getting back to, like, a normal life, because he's not going to tell them what happened. And now he has Willow coming into his life, and he really wants to help her. And for me, I think it really did start out innocent for Ethan and for Willow, but then the lines kind of became blurred, and they really started to develop true feelings for one another. I have not gone on to the second book in this duet yet, which I really need to, because the way that this left off, it was good. I was like, wait, what? But yeah, this one, it was a little bit different than a normal Sam Mariano book, just the hero and how he's just not playing mind games. But still, I mean, it kind of messes with your head, because you're like, okay, what he did to her while they were captured was not good, but you're almost trying to, like, justify it in a way. So it really does, it kind of messes with your head. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I did really like it. Okay, next up, I have another book that I read in my new romance release reading vlog, so I'm not gonna go too into depth on this one. That is book 5 in the summer series. This is The Summer I First Saw You by Elizabeth O'Rourke. I gave this one 2 stars. This one follows Harrison and Daisy. It is a age gap forbidden romance. So Harrison is 32, Daisy is 21, and throughout Daisy's life, Harrison sort of had a like uncle type role in her life. So Harrison is best friends with Daisy's uncle Liam. And he was also like close to Daisy's mom because of that. And Daisy ends up coming back from school. She's in town and she doesn't really have many places to stay, so she like blackmails Harrison into letting her stay at his house, and they obviously start banging, and then they develop feelings for each other. For me, this one, and I know that I have a very unpopular opinion on this book, I felt like the lust was very heavy-handed in here. The lust, the physical relationship that Daisy and Harrison had took a front seat, and then everything else that was happening in this book was on the back burner. That's just my opinion. If you want more thoughts, again, I will have that vlog linked down below. Then I have Wayward, which is book 2 in the Wayward Pines trilogy by Blake Crouch. This is a sci-fi thriller with sort of, it's like dystopian almost. It's like the last town on Earth, or is it? And these people who, when you come there, you can't leave, and you're given a life that, you know, you kind of settle into the life because you settle into the life because you know that there's something weird about the town, and everyone is telling you like, oh, this is what you've always done, you know, this is where you've been, this is where you live, this is your wife, this is your child. But you're like, wait a minute, I remember things that aren't here, and I remember people that aren't you. So we're following Ethan and his family and just what happens in this town. I don't want to go too much into it because, again, this is book 2, but I gave this one 4 stars. Truly enjoying this series, and I really want to watch the, what is it? Is it Amazon? Does Amazon have this show? I don't know. This is made into a TV series and I really want to watch it. Now, we're going to get into probably my favorite book that I have read so far in the month of September, Reign of Shadows and Endings by Melissa K. Rorick. I think for me, is this a 5-star? I don't know. It's 4.5 or 5 stars. I could not put this book down. Could not put this down. I will say though, I think there's something wrong with me, because whenever people talk about this book, they say this is dark, 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 dark. Check your triggers, you know, take care of yourself. And the way that people talked about it and your trigger warnings and stressed how dark this was, I mean, I thought this was going to be like pitch black, very hard to read, and it wasn't that for me. Like, I'm reading this and I'm like, wait a minute, why do I not think this is that dark? So I think there's something wrong with me, okay? Check your triggers, listen to everyone else, don't listen to me. Now, mental health wise, and the things that Tessa, our heroine, goes through in here, yeah, that is dark, and I could see that that would put someone in like a weird headspace and maybe put you in a dark place. It would be hard to read from someone like Tessa's POV and the things that she's going through. I think probably what I was expecting when people were saying that this was dark was more in the romance aspect. And when you first meet Theon, he is very morally gray throughout this whole book, but he was actually kind of nice to Tessa. So I'm like, where's the darkness coming from? What is this? Why do people keep saying this is dark? I don't know. I'm like, I'm messed up. This is messed up, because I don't think this was that dark. But so in this world, we have the legacies who are like descendants of the gods, and we have Fae. Now, Fae, basically, they are there to bond with the legacy and basically help their powers. the legacy's powers. Tessa has sort of skated by the selection that happens where the legacy will come and select a fae. And the fae, they typically know like when they're up to be selected to be bonded to a legacy. And Tessa, she wasn't supposed to be up for selection, but Theon comes in and they have a little run-in. And then he's like, yeah, that's the one I want. And so she's now bonded to Theon, and she doesn't want to be. And because she is rejecting this bond that is, you know, magically set in place, there are a lot of things that happen to her, like physical, like mentally, just she becomes really ill from it. And so Theon is having to take care of her, and he's like, just accept it, accept it, accept it. But Tessa's like, I can't. And you can tell that it's so much more than her just not wanting to be controlled by Theon. It's deeper than that. There's definitely something weird going on, and you're following Tessa and Theon as they try to figure out this bond and why it's not working, why the bond isn't taking. It's definitely, I will say, more character driven than fantasy driven, which I think is why I got through this so quickly. I mean, this is a big book and I read it in like 2 days. So I just could not put it down. And then the very end of this, I will say that there is something that happens with Tessa that is very dark. So yeah, again, don't listen to me. Check your triggers, okay? But this was so freaking good. So freaking good. The hype is real with this one, and I need to read book 2. So loved this. Okay, now we have another fantasy romance, and this is book 2 in a series. This is The Hunted Heir by Holly Renee. I gave this one 2 stars. I don't really have too much to say about it. I think I gave book 1 3 stars. What is book 1? I don't know where my book is. No, The Veiled Kingdom. That's the first book. And then The Hunted Heir. Yeah, 2 stars. I will not be continuing with this series. I don't have much to say about it, so we're just going to move along. Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. This is book 2 in the Rose Hill series that she is doing. This one is following West and Skylar. Again, I have a reading vlog on this, so I'm not going to go too into detail. And I gave it 5 stars so I could just sit and like talk about this book. So Skylar is a country music star. She basically like born and bred into fame and celebrity and status. So she has never really gotten to do things for herself. And at the beginning of this book, she is driving through a very small town and she sees a bear on the side of the road, and she decides she's going to get out and try to record herself with these bears. And that's where she meets Weston, because he's like, Mama Bear's coming. I don't want you to get mauled by a bear. And so he literally protects her with his body. And Skylar is actually, she's going to Ford Grant, which is the hero from book 1. She's going to his recording studio so she can actually write her own album, make her own songs that has nothing to do with her father and her manager, who are just very controlling and just not good people. And so she actually ends up staying in Weston's like garage type barn. I don't know. It's like a bunkhouse sort of thing. And they become really good friends, and his kids in here, he is a single father, and they are just adorable in the way that Weston just breathes so much life into Skylar and is like, why do you care about these people and what they think of you? It doesn't matter. Like, what do you want? Who do you want to be? You know, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? And Skylar also breathes a different life into Weston because he's just so focused on his kids and the, you know, horses that he's training. And he, until Skylar, has always just had one night stands and never wanted anything serious. He's just kind of fun, loving, you know, not a settling down type of man. And then he meets Skylar and he's like, this is the woman that I want to be with. I want to be with her. So I just loved this. I loved this. West just has such a light about him, and he has a way of making a very deep situation and a hard situation, and he brings like just a lightness to it. I loved him. I loved him. I loved this book. I said in my vlog, this was the Elsie Silver that I loved and that I missed. So 5 stars for that one. And then we have False Start by Candy Steiner. This is book 5 in her Red Zone Rivals series. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. We are following Kyle and Madeline. Now, Kyle and Madeline knew each other back in high school, and they had, well, first it started off, they were friends, and then they developed a relationship. Something happened with Madeline and Kyle and their families that tore them apart, and they never talked about it. And so Madeline had certain feelings about Kyle, and Kyle always wondered, what happened? You know, what did I do? Why did she just leave? And so, beginning of this book, Madeline is a realtor, and she is showing a house to someone, and that someone just so happens to be Kyle. And she's like, oh, this is the last thing I need, because she's going through a divorce from her husband, who is abusive, both physically and mentally. She's a single mom, and she's just trying to make enough money to move her and her son away from her husband. She wants nothing to do with him, and she just wants to just start over, start a new life. So one day, I can't remember if they're either like out to dinner or Madeline's actually showing Kyle a house, but he notices bruises like on her arm, and he flips out. He's like, who did this to you? What is going on? Madeline ends up opening up to him about it, and he's pissed. He wants to obviously kill her ex-husband, but he also just wants to help her in any way that he can. And so he asks Madeline to come to his friend's wedding with him and pretend to be his girlfriend, pretend to be in like this serious relationship. And in turn, that will kind of keep her ex-husband away from her, and not, so, you know, he can't hit her, he can't abuse her in any way. Kyle tells her, I will be present with you anytime you were interacting with this man, because that is not happening again. And of course, they go to the wedding, old feelings start coming back, and yeah, the romance just takes off from there. This, I think, is just a solid read from Candy. Again, 4 stars. Not my favorite in the series, but I would recommend reading it. I liked it. I thought it was sweet, and I really liked how Kyle was with her son. It was adorable. So the next book that I read is a historical fiction, and that is The Sweetness of Forgetting by Kristen Harmel. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. So we are following Hope, and Hope has lost her grandmother. She's going through a divorce. She has a teenage daughter who is just, she's not her favorite person at the moment. Hope is not her daughter's favorite person. There's a rift sort of between them. She just got a lot going on, and on top of that, her grandmother is in a nursing home. She has Alzheimer's, and it is getting worse. And Hope also owns a bakery that her family has ran for generations, but financially it's not doing the best. The bank is threatening to take it away. So again, she's got a lot going on. And then one night, her and her daughter end up going to the nursing home to visit with their grandmother, and she hands Hope a list of names, and she is like, who are these people? And her grandmother's like, find these people, because her grandmother knows that, you know, her memory is going in and out, and she doesn't know how much longer she's going to have to tell Hope the truth of her story and the truth of where she came from. And so Hope takes this list of names, and that leads her to Paris, where she finds all kinds of answers about her family and her grandmother and even her mother. So I really enjoyed that once she got to Paris and she started finding answers. And then the end of this book was so freaking sweet. It was so sweet the way everything wrapped up together. But I think the beginning of this book was really slow, and it was really hard for me to get through. So that's why I kind of knocked it down a star, but still, I loved this book. And the next book that I read is another historical fiction. I can't remember if this was recommended to me on either Goodreads or Amazon. You know how it'll pop up with like, other readers enjoyed this. I also think that this is the author's first book that she has ever written, or they have ever written. And that is For the Love of My Enemy by M.E. Blastone? Am I saying that last name right? I'm not entirely sure. So this one is a World War II historical fiction. I also should mention this World War II historical fiction as well. Okay, World War II historical fiction. This one is actually set in the US though, and it's set in, like, I think the Bay Area of California, and it actually is following what used to be a real prisoner of war camp called Camp Windsor. And Adina, who is our heroine, she is a nurse and she works with her father, who is a doctor. And it's just this small little town. And so when the German soldiers, prisoners of war, come over and they are at Camp Windsor, the military actually contacts her father, who is the town doctor, to, you know, come and service these prisoners of war. And before her and her dad actually start working at the camp, she meets Daniel, who is a German soldier, prisoner of war. And she just can't get him out of her head. They have this interaction. It's very brief, but she could tell right away that he's not your typical German soldier that they, you know, very stereotype that they had of German soldiers at this time. She's like, he just, like, his eyes just seem so gentle and sweet. So when she has the chance to actually be in a room with him and work kind of with him one-on-one, it just brings these feelings that she's already having. It intensifies them. And the same for Daniel is his name, the hero in this. And so this is a very kind of taboo love story between an American girl and a German prisoner of war. And you learn how he became a soldier to begin with. He did not want to be. He was, conscripted into the army, like towards the end of the war when, you know, the Germans were losing and they didn't really give you a choice whether or not you were going to fight for Germany. You had to. And so he tells her his story and she just sees a different side of him, but no one in the town they're not behind their romance. And her father definitely is not behind their romance, but she doesn't care. She is like, I love him. I want to be with him. He is not what you think he is. And so I did like that part of it where her seeing him for who he is and not what everyone thinks he is, and not because he had to be a German soldier. I did enjoy that. I just feel like there was a little too much things in the story that didn't need to be there, and then not enough of the meat of the story, if that makes any sense. Like, we didn't really get enough of their romance. It was very much insta love, if I'm being honest. And then the amount of times, I mean, I get he is a prisoner of war, yes, but they didn't really have enough time to be together where you actually felt that they truly loved each other. And then I didn't love the end of the book as well. So we ended up giving this one 3 stars, but I do think that this author is very promising. So I'm definitely going to be looking out for more books that they put out to read them again. So 3 stars. Was not my favorite, but definitely wasn't the worst book that I've ever read. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about in this wrap up today is Embers in the Snow by Anna Carvin, I think. I got this recommendation from both Crystal from Crystal's Bookish Life and Jen from the Book Refuge. They both really enjoyed this. This is a standalone, I believe, fantasy romance. I say standalone, I believe, because I don't know if, like, the story in here is wrapped up, but there may be, like, other books in this world. Did that make any sense? Probably not. Okay, so we are following Finley and Corvin. Now, Finley is a human, or is she? And Corvin is a vampire, but no one really knows that Corvin, like, what he is. He's just sort of been away from the public eye for a very long time. And Corbin's father and Finley's father get together, make a marriage deal. So Finley and Corbin are now betrothed. And again, she does not know that he is a vampire. And so when she goes to meet him, she's very surprised. She's like, what is going on? And Corbin immediately is drawn to her and drawn to her blood like no other. So it definitely makes for an interesting first meet. There is, he drinks from her without her permission because he's so just filled with lust. He can't help it. Not really lust, hunger. You know, he can't control himself when he's around her. So he really does spend like the first few days that they're together. She's at his house, not together. He spends it away from her. And she really doesn't put two and two together that Corbin is the guy that, you know, she's going to marry at first. And then she finally figures it out. And she's like, oh my gosh. But he has shown her nothing but kindness. So she really decides to trust him. And Finley, there are a few times in here where she's kind of like the damsel in distress, but Corbin is very protective, very possessive of her. And so this one I ended up giving a 3.5 star. I don't really have a ton to say about it, and like a ton of good things and then a ton of negative things. It was just a solid fantasy romance vampire. It was good. Just again, nothing really good stuck out and nothing really bad stuck out. So, you know, sometimes you just have those books where it's like, it was what it was, and that's totally fine. So those are the 12 books that I have read so far in September. If you have made it to this point in the video and you'd like to let me know, leave me a, what emoji? I need to like think of these before because I always sit here and try to think of one. Just leave me a book stack emoji. We'll make it easy. And let me know how many books you've read so far in September and what your favorite is so far. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you next time.